Hi, everybody. Trying to get my camera here to work. Sorry for the fiddling. I had my regular camera set up, and for some reason, it won't show me. It won't show anything. So I'm just going to end up using my webcam on my computer. We always have something, don't we? Always something. Oh, goodness sakes. We'll wait just a couple of minutes before we get started. I've got my phone sitting here so I can sort of see if I'm showing you everything the way I want to, but we'll see. I will be doing a video on this as well, a tips video. So just in case this doesn't work out as planned, we'll have a better quality one, but I just wanted to share some info with you that I came up with. So we'll start in just a minute. Hi, Annette. Hi, Candace. Hi, Sandra. Dora, welcome. Barb, Cynthia, Pam. Oh, I'm so glad that you have some sun. We do too. We had rain yesterday, but we have sun today. And good morning from Canada. Yay. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Please let us know where you're from. And I will talk a minute about the quilt in the background. That's kind of my little story that I want to share with you. So welcome, everybody. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're able to join me. I love daytime quilting. I hate when my camera doesn't work. And I don't know why. I never know why. It seems like we always set it up exactly the same way. Everything's plugged into the same spots, and you hear this story from me every time. Somehow it doesn't work. So I can see my microphone's working, so that's a good thing. And I'm looking at a black screen right now on my computer, so I'm hoping that you all can see everything that I'm going to do. Oh, from Rockford, Carmel, hi. Yes. Welcome, everybody. Florida. Ooh, is it warm there? Is it hot there? We were a little chilly this morning. I had to walk the dog, and it was about 56 degrees or something like that, a little windy. So we're still in spring. We still go back and forth. Okay, it's time to get started. Welcome, everyone, to Joyful and Merry Quilting, our daytime live. And this is a time when I just usually share products or tips or something like that. We don't make anything necessarily. That's reserved for our night owl quilting if we do that. But this is just a time that I share things I found out, things that I figured out, and just let you know, fill you in on the details. So I'm always discovering new things when it comes to quilting. I'm telling you, it seems like every single time I attempt a project, maybe it's a tried and true project, I come across something new or something that I hadn't tried before. Sometimes good, sometimes not so good, as I'm sure you all feel the same way. So I just wanted to, first of all, I've got my notes here. I want to make sure this is what we are going to be talking about today. These are our markers and pens and everything that we use when it comes to marking our quilts. So I'm going to just take a look here just a little bit. Okay, just 1 second. I can set this up. Okay. All right. And hopefully, if you have anything to offer when it comes to this topic, please give us a comment. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do that also. Love to have you subscribe and come back and join us again. It seems like, we've been doing this for a while, but we still have new people joining in, and we're just really excited about that. Okay, so let me see. Okay. Okay, so here we go. We have actually, I have a quilt that's hanging behind me on the wall, and the quilt is something that I made a long time ago, and I dedicated it to my mom. And since this is Mother's Day weekend, I just thought, I was thinking of my mom, and you know how it is when you've lost your mom, those of you who have, there are so many things that you wish you could share in the moment with her. And every once in a while I'll think, oh, mom would love to hear about that. Or I really need to tell mom something, and she's not here to tell. But I know she knows. And so I just want to share this story with you. about this particular quilt. As you can see, it's a bunch of houses. And when you lift up the little windows, the little shutters on the houses, there's all sorts of things. There's, like Coca-Cola and a snail and some beach items and just all sorts of stuff. Everyone has something different. I had all these novelty prints, and it's called Won't You Be My Neighbor? And when I designed the quilt pattern, the story behind it was that it was Christmas time in our school, and every year they always have a contest with all of the homerooms in our high school. And the person, what they encouraged everybody to do were to bring some type of an item to go in these big, huge baskets that were then taken to a family in need. And so we were all competing because everybody wanted to win the prize. Don't remember what the prize was, but I do remember the competition and everybody bringing all these items. And our particular homeroom collected 3 big, huge baskets filled with all sorts of fun, food. It was filled with food, canned goods, and all sorts of things. So at the end of the contest, then we were all proud, and we had won. And we were excited about it. Then our homeroom teacher said, okay, we need somebody that can deliver a basket. We needed 3 people to deliver baskets to families in need. And so I thought, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to take the basket. I mean, I was a freshman in high school. That's how freshmen think. And I was just like, no, we collected everything, but I don't want to do that. Somebody else can. So I left school. My mom always picked me up after school and she said, how did it go? And I said, oh, we won. It was great. We had so much fun doing this. And she said, and I said, but the weird thing was that our teacher asked us then for volunteers to take the baskets to different homes. And my mom said, did you volunteer? And I'm like, no. And she said, you get back there and volunteer. My gosh, that's the best part of the collection. It's the service, being able to deliver this to the family. You go back in and tell her that you're going to take one. And so I did. I went back in and I said, well, my mom said that we'll take one of those if you just give us the address. So there was a day plan that we had to do it. And she gave us the address. And in the meantime, that particular day, we were going to do it after school. My mom went to the grocery store and she bought, I don't know if you remember these do you remember the slow pokes? They were like taffy that were hard as rocks, tear your fillings out when you try and take a bite out of them. Anyway, she bought these big, huge slow pokes and to put in the basket for the family. I don't know how many she put in there, but anyway, they were, to me, they were gigantic. And we laid them on the top of the basket. And then we took them to the home. And when we got to the home, the family was so excited. The kids were there. The mom and dad were there. They were thanking us and they were so happy. When I walked into the living room, there was no furniture. All there was a bench that was sitting over against the wall. And I remember the bench, it was this wooden bench and it had blue walls in the living room, like cement walls, like cinder block walls. And I was stunned. I had no idea that there were those that would be so grateful for a basket of food. And as I came out of there, I mean, I was on cloud 9. I didn't need to walk. All I had to do was float. I was so happy. My friend and I had made the delivery and we were so happy when we came back to the car and talked to my mom. She's like, how was it? I said, oh, it was so much fun. It was wonderful. I never forgot that experience. I never forgot what it meant to be a good neighbor. I never forgot the feeling that I had. And that is truly what basically started me on a service sort of a mission. I just felt like I needed to serve, and I was so excited to be able to serve others. And my life has kind of developed that way. I mean, we all have our busy times and our ups and downs and those moments when we just don't have time to serve anybody except for either our families or our own selves. But there are so many times when the opportunity arises and I'm just thrilled to be able to take advantage of that. So when I created this quilt, I called it Won't You Be My Neighbor? And I told my mom that I had dedicated it to her. And then I related the story again from that particular time in case she'd forgotten. And she said, oh my gosh, yes, I remember that. That was the best part, the delivery. I'm so glad that you understood that. And I'll tell you, I did understand that and I still do. And I know what a good feeling it is to be a good neighbor, whatever we do. It doesn't mean we have to take people things, or it doesn't mean that we have to mow their lawn or whatever, just to be a good friend and a good neighbor. And that's what I love about the quilting world. We are always donating something to someone when they are in need of comfort or celebration or whatever. We may offer a quilt for a wedding, for a baby, for someone who's struggling, someone going through chemo, a child that's in crisis. There are so many ways that we can offer service through quilting. And in the process, we take ourselves to a place that is like no other. There is no way to describe it when we describe that feeling that we have when we are actually able to serve someone through the gift of a quilt, a handmade quilt. So anyway, that's my story when it comes to this particular quilt. And I love it. And I look at it and it's getting kind of old there. I've had it for quite a while. It's been folded up. So I pulled it out and I'm excited that I'm able to share that with you today. And as we celebrate, if you have someone special in your life a special woman in your life that you can honor in some way or have honored over the weekend, I hope that you were able to do some kind of service in some way that lets them know that they are loved. Okay, I have a merry moment. Now that's kind of a merry moment, but I have a really specific merry moment from this week. Actually, I was able to visit with Katie who calls herself the Greenland Quilter. And I think I mentioned this before that I was going to have an interview with her. She actually has a new YouTube channel called the Greenland Quilter. She's from Greenland. I mean, that's where she lives. She's originally from the United States. She's lived in Greenland, I believe she said 14 years. And she quilts, she gardens, she crochets unbelievable work. And we were able to just chat about quilting, something that we love. And then she posted the interview yesterday, I think it was yesterday or Monday, I can't remember, on her YouTube channel. So if you go to the Greenland Quilter, be sure and subscribe to Katie's channel. She's just really fun to watch, such a neat person. And she has what she does is she interviews quilters with YouTube channels all over the world. So you can watch all your favorite YouTubers on there and watch the interview, just a personal chit chat with Katie as she invites them to share their love of quilting with her. And then they chat for a while. And then she also has some times when she actually sews with them for a couple of hours with that particular person that she's interviewed. So I'll be doing that in a couple of weeks. But it was really, really fun. And it truly brought me joy. I love to talk with other quilters anyway. And then to be able to speak with Katie way across the globe, there was a 4-hour time difference. So it was 3:00 my time. It was already 7:00 her time. But she had people that joined in that are faithful followers, and I hope she gets more. I think it's a great channel, and I just wanted to share that with you. So if you go to her channel, be sure and look. I think the video I did with her is under new videos, so you have to look for it. But then she has all the other interviews. She has couple hundred. Like I say, she just got started. So she'd been really burning the midnight oil, getting those interviews done and talking to people. And again, just a fascinating person. And, everybody wants to know. I didn't even know that there were towns in Greenland, to be honest with you. I thought that, it's like military bases and things. I remember on Happy Days when Richie got stationed in Greenland, and it just didn't even seem like it was anything other than a military base. That shows what I know. But I did a lot of research and I learned a lot about the country and about that particular area. And it's a fascinating story. So if you're into history, if you're into geography, if you're into any kind of interaction with those around the world, please check out Katie's channel. So let's see. Another announcement. We have our beginning quilting course. It's called Beginning Quilting from Novice to Confident Beginner. That is starting again on the 27th of May. It's a great course. It's a long, it's about, let's see, I think it's 24 lessons. So you can make it as long or as short as you want, depending on how quickly you want to speed through the class, but you make a quilt in the end and you learn everything from cutting to sewing everything together, making your blocks, assembling your blocks, sandwiching your quilt, quilting your quilt, putting on the binding and labeling it. In addition, there's all sorts of things. We have yoga. We have just to kind of loosen you up while you're doing all this quilting. We also have some history that's involved, a little quiz, some therapeutic benefits to quilting, all sorts of stuff. It's a great course. If you're a beginning quilter, it's really good to walk you through. But if you are already in or a self-taught quilter and maybe you want to perfect your skills a little bit and just see how I do it, then it's a great course for that as well. So if you're interested in that, go to don't go there, email info@joyfulandmerryquilting.com. Let us know you want to be on the mailing list when it comes to the course, and we'll send out the registration information fairly soon. We also have another course coming up that I am really excited about. It's kind of the next course beyond the beginning course. We learn more details. It won't be as long as the original course, but we will be making a quilt and the blocks that have a little more complicated process to them, but things that are very basic to quilting. So we're just kind of taking it to the next level. If you're interested in that and you'd like to be on the mailing list, info@joyfulandmerryquilting.com. Send the email to us for that as well, and then we will let you know when that quilt starts. That one will be starting later. Alex has the link to the waiting lists in the comments here. If anybody's interested, just click on that and you'll be able to get on that list. Okay, so that takes us to, I do have some guild information for those of you who are in the Quilt Guild, in the Joyful and Merry Quilt Guild. We have a meeting tomorrow. That's our informal meeting. The third meeting of the month is our more informal meeting. And we are going to be doing the beginning preparations when it comes to our beach quilt. It's the, let's see, Outdoor Oasis Picnic and Beach Quilt. I made it a big long name and then I can't remember what it is. So anyway, that's what it is. Those in the guild got that pattern. That's part of being a guild member. And those in the guild will gather together tomorrow to get it going. Now, the guild is currently membership is closed, but we will open it again in the future. Right now, we're just testing the waters. We're kind of getting everything together. A lot of benefits to being a guild member, and we hope that you'll consider it when membership is open again. But right now, we do have a newsletter that comes out every Thursday for everyone. Anybody who's on our mailing list gets the newsletter. I don't know if you've gotten it. We had it last week, and there's all kinds of fun information in there, tips and history and trivia and announcements. If you have a quilt guild that's having a show, you can let me know and I can put it in the newsletter. A quilt shop that's a favorite, I can refer people to that. If you have a shop hop coming up, we prefer that everything be within like a month prior, just so that we don't have things that we're advertising too far ahead, because they kind of get lost in the shuffle. But we have all kinds of stuff. So if you're not a member, if you haven't signed up for the newsletter, not a member, it's for anyone, go to joyfulandmerryquilting.com. And if you click on Watch Free Workshop, it'll ask for your email address. That signs you up for the newsletter. So they come out on Thursdays. And again, they have all kinds of great information in there about quilting and things that I want to share with you. And if you have any tips or ideas, you can email me, Mary@joyfulandmerryquilting.com. And depending on, the content for that particular month, we'll try and include whatever we can. So anyway, so excited once again to share today's lesson. And I wish I could show you the camera down, but sadly it's not working. So what I'm going to do is just tip my board up, and I'm going to tip my computer down as needed. Okay, so let me do that. Well, let's see if this, okay, there we go. Everything is a little bit delayed, so hopefully you can see this. There we go. That looks good. Okay, great. So today, what we're going to be talking about is we are going to be talking about all those pens that I showed you. So here they are. Hopefully you can see them. There's a ton in here. Marking pens are something that we use all the time when it comes to quilting. And there are so many out there, and every one of them tells us that it has a particular use that's better than every other one. So as you can see, I bought them all. So I'm going to go through the ones that I have. There are probably many more out there. And I know that those of you who have markers have your own personal opinion. This is just my opinion, but let's go through what we have. First of all, the first tool, the first marking tool I have is just a basic pencil. This is a 0.7 millimeter pencil. It's a one you would buy at the office supply store. It is a 0.7 because that tends to write best on fabric. It's wide enough, but it doesn't break. If you get like the smaller lead, they tend to break when you try and write on the fabric, so I don't like to use those. This is what I have always used. When I've been marking the wrong side of my fabric squares, I always mark them using a pencil. I mark my diagonal lines if I'm on the wrong side of the fabric because it's not going to show. We mark the wrong side when it comes to maybe a measurement, a cutting place where we're supposed to cut, or maybe when we are sewing a seam line and we want to have an actual seam line that is drawn onto our fabric, we can use a pencil. Again, it won't show because it's on the wrong side of the fabric. Now, if you sew on a very thin white fabric, it could show through. So you want to kind of be careful about that and test it ahead of time just to make sure, how hard you're going to press and how dark the line is that you're going to make. This does not come off. So you know that when you use this, it's there forever. One thing that's a little bit of an issue with this, when I am using my ruler, and let's say that I am marking, so I'm drawing from corner to corner, and maybe my ruler moves and I mess up, and so I draw my line crooked, you're stuck. It's there. You can't remove it. There's no taking it away. You just have to redraw, and then I'll go and draw it a little bit darker, so I know that's the right line, and I'll put some marks on the wrong line, and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's the pencil, the marking pencil. Okay, so the next one is a chalk pencil. I don't know if you've seen these, but these are good for marking lines. Let's say if you're doing quilting lines on the top of your fabric, and it comes in different colors. This is the white, and it has this basically a curved end on it. And then it's a little rotating thing so that when you place your ruler on your fabric and you do this, I'll show you. I'm going to place my ruler here and I'm going to go corner to corner. And then it just kind of goes like that, which is really pretty cool. I mean, it does make a nice mark. Here's what the problem is. It goes away really fast. So if you are doing a lot of quilting and you're scrunching up your fabric, this can really, be an issue because you're going to lose your lines as you're going along. But if you're just doing a small area and you need to mark something, it works well. So, it's a good thing for specialty uses. Okay, the next one that I'm going to talk about are the water solubles. This is the pen everybody knows about. Everybody's seen these blue pens. They're like a marking pen, and, they have the tip on the end and a fine tip. And you can use those to mark your particular fabric. I'm going to move this for a second. And when you mark on it, it makes a pretty, I think it makes a pretty clear line. It's thick. So if you want to use this for anything that's, that you're being really careful of, this is kind of thick. So it's good for cutting. And then when you're ready to remove it, you just take water. This is water in here. And you do that and it goes away. Okay, now you got a wet piece. So you have to then dry it. You can use, a hair dryer. You can just put a piece of fabric over the top of it and then iron it, and that will go away. But you can see it's gone. I mean, it looks pretty good. And I've used these many, many times. So those markers are something that are easy to remove if you don't mind your fabric getting wet and if you don't mind the thicker line. Okay, so then the next one is this. And I want to tell you one more thing on this one. It says right on here, it says, please try this. There's some writing on here and it says, please try with a piece of wasted cloth before use. It's pretty bold on there so that, the disclaimer, just in case you want to make sure that you try it on something, squirt it off so that you don't do it on your beautiful quilt, depending on the fabric that you have, and it just soaks it up and never goes away. I don't know if that happens. I've never had that issue, but it can. Which takes me to this particular pen. Now, this one is called an air and water soluble. So it actually comes off with water if you squirt it, but it also goes away after a short period of time. But I'm going to tell you, a short period of time is for me, it was really short. So I just, let's say I'm going to mark this, and I've marked my line. Now we're just going to leave it here. And you can see already it's lightening up. And we'll just leave it here, and you can see how long it takes before that ink is totally gone. And then, like I say, you can spray it again. If you're doing something fast and you just need the mark and you don't care that it goes away really fast, this works out well. I'm sure you can see it's disappearing. It's going fast and it hasn't even been a minute yet. So this is something that for a quick mark, it works well. Maybe you're marking, like you want to mark a little corner, you want to mark this corner to corner or something like that, and you then mark it and sew, you're good to go. So that's that one. Now I'm going to get into the newer markers. And these are the markers that are left in here that we hear about. Look at this, it's really going away quickly here. I'm going to show you on this particular piece. I'm going to move this over here. I hope you can see it. I'm going to show you on this piece all the different markers and the colors and things and what you have to do. And then you can kind of take everything with a grain of salt, depending on what works for you. Nothing here is set in stone. So first of all, I came across these pens right here. And the brand name actually, when I saw them, it was by Madame So. And they're called heat erasable fabric marking pens. They came in this little box. You got 4 pens, and then you got 4 refills on the pens. So that was good. I heard people say that they worked really well, and I was game. I was ready to try them. When they come, they are not filled. So you have to take this tip off, so it just unscrews. And then you get the insert comes just like that, the ink, and you put the ink in. Like I say, it was empty when I got it. And then you go ahead and you screw that back on again. And now it's ready to go. Now, what they suggest is that you try it on a piece of fabric. You're looking at this, look at that. So it's really going away. Okay, so they suggest you try this on a piece of fabric, and then it is heat erasable, which means that when you put your iron on top of it, the lines go away. I'm always skeptical when I hear about that. I always wonder, is it really going to go away? Is it ever going to come back? So I'm going to leave this for a second as I talk about what I think is kind of a companion to these, similar, and that's the Frixion pens. They come as markers, and they come as just a pen, really similar to what the Jan Young is, the Madame So, very similar, and they look the same when I draw with these. So I kind of wondered if it's the same concept, but it's just this is the name of the pen, and I just wondered if the markers, they are wider. I wasn't sure. So I've heard people say they work really well. I've also heard people say that that it comes back, the color comes back once you iron them, and that concerns me. If I'm using it on the wrong side of the fabric, it doesn't matter. But if I'm using it on the right side of the fabric, then it's a little bit scarier, because I don't want this to reappear. So I'm not going to test these, just because I kind of eliminated these from my marking pen lineup, just because I've just heard too many people that say the marks come back, and I'm just not interested in that. There's other products out there. Okay, so back to the Madame So pens. These pens, they were $16.99 on Amazon for 4 pens and 4 refills. Now, 4 empty pens and 4 refills. Then someone told me about another brand called Janyan, and they actually have 4 pens and 28 refills. So there's another one in here, a red one. From what I understand, the ink goes down on these really fast, and that's why there's so many refills, that you have to use several when you're marking a quilt. Well, I understand that. These were $6.99 for 4 pens and 28 refills. Okay, so compare that. $16.99 for 4 pens and 4 refills, and for the Janyan, $6.99 for four pens and 28 refills. Okay, so too good to be true, right? Well, if you're marking again on the wrong side of the fabric, they work great. But I'm going to show you what I discovered on with using these pens on the right side of the fabric. So first of all, since I have all these different colors, so we could test out everything. And then I have one more to test out after this one. Okay, so if we're looking at this particular one, these pencils, there's one other that I have used for a long time, and this is by Soline. Now, when I first bought these years ago, they came in individual pens. There was all different colors, yellow and black and white and green and pink. And so you could use them on all your different fabrics. And so I bought, several of the colors, plus I bought the little refills. They come in a little container like this. These are the white ones. And then you can just replace the ink or the cartridge. Now, what I liked about these were that they are ceramic, which means that they don't drag. Sometimes when you're using a regular pencil, it tends to drag because it's not absolutely smooth on the end. And these are smooth. So I loved these. I loved the way that they marked. And I was really excited when I found them. And then I discovered the Soline Trio pen, which all you do is you dial your color. There's pink, there's white, and there's black. And then you can put other colors in there if you want. So you don't have to either swap out all the leads all the time, or you don't have to have many different pens. So I was really excited about that. I thought, ooh, this is really good too. Now, Soline says that the markings are also removable with water, or you can erase them with the eraser that's on the end of the pencil. So this one, the eraser is hidden. The erasers are out, but it just looks like a regular eraser. So we're going to try that too. So let's start out, and I'm going to show you, first of all, this is the black pen, and it's easiest to see, of course, over here on the white fabric. So I'm just going to draw a line. And you can see that it's, it's a wiggly line and it looks fine there. Now let's say we're going to mark with the red. Let's put the red on the blue here. See how that shows up. And it shows up pretty well. I mean, you can see it. If I'm marking with this, I think it was very easy. It slid along nicely. The gel tip, that's what they are, gel tips. Okay, now I've got a blue one, and we'll put the blue one, we'll try it on the red here. Now, this one was a little harder to do. Now I've got batting in this because I wanted to simulate it like a quilt. So it's a little more difficult to see because you've got blue on dark red. So that's kind of obvious. That's going to be an issue. Now let's go over here. We have a white pen. From what I read and people said about the white pen, they said it takes a minute to show up. And a lot of people will say, oh, the white didn't work. When in reality, it did work. You just had to wait a minute. So I'm going to make a line on this one. And I can see it, but it looks almost kind of silvery. But as you can see, it's getting darker. Do you see? It's the white line is showing up. Let's try the white on the red and just compare that. Okay, I put the white on the red, and it's also showing up. Let's try the white on the blue. And now I'm not seeing the white on the blue like I saw it on the other. I don't know what the deal is with that one. That one's not, I can sort of see it here, but it's not showing up like it did on these two. Oh, yep, now it's coming. Now I can see it. So it is showing up. It just takes a second. They said it's kind of, I don't know, it appears kind of after it sits for a minute. On the orange, I don't know, probably a black. Okay, so that one looks good. And then on the purple, that's just a light color, so you can basically probably use pretty much anything on that one. Yeah. So the blue works good on there. So you can see the yellow, you know, that any color would work on here. Let's put a red. And then on this green, since it's so dark, I know it's none of the, we probably would need to use this. Now, I've got solid fabrics here. If you are using fabrics that have a print to them somehow, then of course, the wrong side of the fabric is going to show up without any trouble, usually, because it's very light. So any of the colors will work. But if you're marking on the top, it's a little more difficult to see, and you're going to need something that's darker, probably the black or the blue on that particular one. Now, I can see on here, the green, I'm not seeing it very well. I'm seeing it on the blue now, on the red. So these are all the colors. So let's see what happens when we actually press it. I'm going to let my iron heat up just for a second because it's been sitting here for a minute. And in the while we're waiting, I'm going to try the other pens. Let's take a look at the Sew Line pen, and I'm just going to mark it on my white so you can see how it marks. I'm just going to draw a line. So there's, oops, that's, I'm not pushing down on it. Okay, so that's the line that it makes with the black. Here's my red. And the red shows, oh, this is my pink. The pink shows up on the yellow. And then here's my white that I'm going to do on the black. Actually, I'm going to just draw it on here. And look at that. That's really nice. The Sew Line, the white is really nice. I should have marked that one. There's the black. Let's do the black over here. So there we go. So we can see that's what the Sew Line is. Okay, so let's test it and see if it really does erase off. We'll try the pink first. Okay, there's a lot of crumbs coming off my eraser here. And yeah, it came off, but not what I would want. I can still see the pink. Let's see this here. Okay. I'm trying really hard here, and I'm not feeling it when it comes to the eraser. I feel like we got to have a better option here because that's not coming off. So keep that in mind when we try this again. Now, the other thing they said is we can spray it with water. We'll do that in a second. So let's go ahead and we're going to press this and watch what happens. Ooh, look at that. Everything is gone, okay? Other than these, because those aren't heat erasable. But all those markings are gone. So you think, wow, that's phenomenal. I think this is really great. What a great product. Okay, here we go. Take a look at the white. I hope you can see it. This is what's called ghosting. Here's the line that I drew right there, and it is obvious. It is there. It is not gone. Now, the others is a little harder to see. I don't see them. Oh, I see it on the blue. I see ghosting on the blue. And actually, the ghosting, you won't be able to see it on the camera, but it's darker. The line is actually darker. That's what it is on all of them. Now, the more that I look on these pieces, I'm seeing the orange ghosted right there. The orange is there. So that one is there. Honestly, I think they're all probably there. Okay, so what they said was in the instructions, if you have any ghosting, which I say we have a lot of ghosting, that you can spray it with water or you can wash it off with your some mild soap. So I did that, and I'll show you that in a second. But let's see these, because remember, they said that these will come off with water. So let's spray those and see if they do indeed come off. I'm just going to use a little piece of fabric to rub it a little bit. Now, it's a little bit lighter, but I can still see the pink. The black, oh yeah, it's coming off. The black is coming off with a little bit of pressure. I'm not even using any soap on this one. It is wet. So you have to understand, I do see a little bit of no, I don't really. It's gone away on this one. There is still a little bit of the line on the purple because I used the black pen on that one. So that, again, might be the issue too. You may want to use a lighter pen on the fabric. But again, this ghosting is horrible. I mean, it's all here. Let's see this one right here on the white and see if that one gets any lighter, because that's pretty obvious as well. That's the sew line. Remember, the lines, I did the sew line, and the squiggles, I did the other. Okay, so that one is not coming off as well. I used black on white. So maybe it would be better to use the pink on this one instead of the darkest color if you are going to be marking on the top. I'm really leery about that. Okay, now I'm going to show you what I did. Okay, first of all, I tested this ahead of time because what they said was the ghosting might happen. And if you, and I'll show you on this one, this is ghosting. And this is after I heat set it, I tried to remove it with the heat. I did not wash this. I just put the iron on it. This was a black marker, and you can see that whole squiggle that's not ghosting to me. That's a mark. That's a ghosting, I would think, would be just a little tiny line. This is a definite mark that's showing through. Now, this one, I did the same thing, but I washed it. So I used hand soap like they said. I scrubbed it good. I then dried it. I dried it between a towel so that it wouldn't distort, and then let it air dry. And look, it's still, after washing, it looks just the same as it did before with the ghosting on the other block. So I'm not sold. I'm not sold that this comes out. I don't think it does. And I would not put that on the top of my quilt if it was a place that I was a little worried about it. Okay, now this is an interesting part right here. These blocks, I did the same thing. I put my squiggles all over on the different ones. This one was a white one. And then and the white one actually is not there. I heat set them so they were all gone. All the markings were gone. And then I put them in the freezer because people said that cold weather under 20 degrees, it can reappear. Your lines can reappear. And look, every one of them came back. Every one. 20 degrees around here is not that cold in the winter. I mean, we get 20 degrees a lot. And you can see this is way obvious. Now, what the suggestion was, turn my camera up. The suggestion was from the company is that if this happens, you just heat set it again. Okay, do you really want to do that? I mean, do you really want every time? I mean, if you're keeping your quilt in your house and it's never going to get cold and you're never going to have an issue with it, those lines reappearing, I guess that's okay. Then it's not a big deal. But if you take your quilt outside, if you're using it for anything else, and every time you do that, these lines reappear and you have to go ahead and press it again to get rid of the lines. I don't think it's worth it to do that. Now, that doesn't mean that I wouldn't use the pens. That's not what I'm saying, because there are uses for our marking pens other than marking a quilt pattern on the top of our quilt. What I like to use it for is I have, let's say that I'm not very good artistically when it comes to drawing things. So if I have maybe some embroidery I want to do on a block, maybe I've done an applique and I want a little smile on the face that I want to do an embroidery, I have a hard time drawing a nice little smile, and I have to use some kind of a template, and I put it on there. So what I do is I use this marker, and I say I'm doing a smile. I will take it, I will use the outside of something and draw around it on my fabric, and then embroider over the top of it. This isn't going to show. If it does show a tiny bit and I squirt it with water, the ghosting isn't going to matter because you've already got the color that's there, and it's not a super thick line. So an embroidery, like using my sewing machine, it would cover it up. And so that's what I would use something like that for. That way I'm not using a micron pen that will never go away. And maybe it'll show a little bit on the, squeezing out a little bit on the outsides of that embroidery line. So this is why squirting it then, or heat, if you're using the a pen that's water soluble, or if you're using the heat erasable pens, I think is very helpful. And you can use those, but you really, I think, need to be super careful. They, I hate when they advertise and say, that everything will come out. There's always a disclaimer somewhere. And I looked and I looked and I looked, and the video, like I say, did say, as the woman was demonstrating the product, she did say, if you have some ghosting, then just use some hand soap and wash it out. And she showed that. Well, I tried that and it didn't work very well. I used hand soap. So maybe Dawn would be better. But again, for that little bit of a line that I'm going to draw on my fabric, am I willing to do that? Do I really want to? Now, someone else suggested that there's some ultra washable Crayola markers. I think it's highlighters, I think they're called. And they come out of clothing, come out of fabric, of course, because they're made for kids. And if they get marker all over their clothes, you want it to come out. But once again, there's a pretty good washing process involved in that. Do you want to put your quilt through that? If you do, if you wash your quilt and use soap and do that before you gift it, great, then it would work out well for you. But once again, when they say washable, I am very skeptical. I want to make sure that I have tested it on the fabrics I'm using, not just on any old fabric and not on the fabrics that somebody used in the video, on my fabric. I want to make sure that it works. I want to wait. I want to give it enough time that it can sit for a bit. And, like this, I was shocked when I realized how it does come back in when it gets cold, because like I say, people said, oh, it can come back when it gets cold. Well, I knew someone who actually had marked her entire quilt with a black marker. It was a Frixion pen. It wasn't this one. And it was dark and it was all over, and it was a pink and white quilt. And she put it in her trunk of her car to take it somewhere in the winter. And when she took it out, it had all of those black marks back, and she was devastated. Well, she just had to iron them out again. But the chemicals are in there somewhere. They are in the fabric. Okay. Now, one other thing, this pen used to be, that's all there was. I use this to mark the quilting pattern on a Storm at Sea quilt that I made for my daughter. And I was working on it, and then I put it away for a couple of months because I was hand quilting it. And when I got it back out again, all the marks were gone, the blue marks, and a yellow mark was all over in place of the blue mark that would not come out. With washing, with spot cleaning, everything I tried, it didn't come out. So once again, it's in there. It seeps down into those fibers. Just be really careful when you choose a pen to use. Make sure that where you are marking, it's not coming through. It's not showing through, and you're using something that will work well. You can't beat a pencil. It's not going to soak through. This is also a pencil lead. So the sew line is a pencil if you're marking on the wrong side of the fabric. I'm a little concerned with this when I would mark with this gel pen on the wrong side, because I'm worried that it did seep through. I just didn't see it. So those are my opinions. That's what I think about this. I really, I feel like markers are essential when we're quilting. I'm sure many of you think that also, but I want you to, just kind of think about it twice before you use one, and make sure that you've tested everything beforehand. You don't want to ruin your quilt. You don't want to ruin your fabric. You don't want to do something to a quilt that you don't see, and then down the road, somebody who has it all of a sudden has all these black marks showing up on their quilt. We don't want that to happen. So we have to just be really discretionary when it comes to what we choose and what we use. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, Joanne, the Frixian pen. I know. I agree that many have not had any issues, and a lot of people have used them. When I tested it out, it comes back in the cold, and that's my issue. I just don't want anything that's hiding in my quilt that might show up later if there's another alternative. So, I think there's a lot of good alternatives out there that we can use, that we can pick. And, we just have to be comfortable with what we choose. Don't take anybody's word for it. Again, test it out. Obviously, some of you have tested these products out and you're absolutely happy with them. And that is great. I've been happy with mine. I've been happy with this pen. I've used it a lot. I didn't use it on the top. I used it on the wrong side of my fabric. I like the way it marks. I like that I can see it. I like that the way that once I've pressed it, that mark goes away. I didn't see it on the other side, and I only use it in the seam allowance or to mark a seam allowance, so it's not going to show all over my quilt, and I'm happy with it. So, and plus they're cheap. They're super cheap. $6.99 for 4 pens and 28 refills. That's a good price. So anyway, anything else? Now, writing on a quilt label, what I would do on that is I would use my Micron pen. Now, this is the 05. They drag a little bit when you're writing, so you got to practice. And what you can do is you can iron some freezer paper to the wrong side of your fabric piece that you're going to be writing on your label. You just iron a piece to it, and then you write just like you would. Practice a little bit ahead of time because it does take some getting used to. When you write, it can sometimes get caught up on the fibers a little bit. So when you're doing that, but it has a nice, very thin tip. It works really, it stays on forever. I have a quilt that I've had for years and years and years that's marked on, and it didn't go away. It's still there. And so, if you're not into embroidery actually on your label, the Micron pens work really well. They come in all colors. You can decorate it if you want. You can you can make all sorts of really pretty, additions to your label just to make it look really fancy. So I really like the Micron pen, and they last forever. I mean, I've had mine. I bought them and kept them in a plastic bag, and I haven't had any dry up on me. And like I said, I've had them for years. So I love that. Yes, the Soline pencil. I love that too. Also, yes, the Frixion pen. These actually, when I read an article by the company, the Pilot Company, they make them. They said they were used for paper, that they were used for drawings and different kinds of charts and things. That's what the original intention was. And then somebody tried it on fabric. So that's kind of the original intention was not for fabric. It was for paper. Let's see. I don't know, wondering if the Frixion comes back or this pen comes back due to the different fibers. Because if you look, I mean, these are all the Kona fabrics. They're all Kona solids. The only one that didn't show back up again was the white. That one I don't see when I put it in the freezer. The others all shadowed or ghosted or came back. But well, actually they came back, but this one did not. And that one was the white. So it could be that some of them just react differently to the fibers in the fabric. I don't know. Do I heat set the ink when I use the Micron pen? Yes. And not really intentionally, but I always press my label afterwards. I don't slide it. I just press it, but I want to make sure that it's for sure dry. Now, this doesn't feel wet when it comes out, and it doesn't at all bleed on my fabric. So that's a good thing. But I wait a second before I actually give it a good press, just because I don't want it to be not quite dry and cause any bleeding or anything like that to happen. So, but I do heat set anytime I use this one. I make sure that it's sturdy, it's in there. One thing that you have to be careful of is some people send their labels, they put them on, they send them through their computer. There's fabric that you can actually print on. You can't use a laser printer for that. You have to use an inkjet. the laser just goes away. You've got toner in there that just eventually goes away. It's the inkjet printer that's actually going to create that label. So if you're going to do that on your computer, it works great. You can buy that fabric that you can print on and then cut it out. Looks good on there. You just want to make sure that that you're using an inkjet printer, so it's ink that's going in there. Let's see what else. Oh, Martha says colored chalk cannot be ironed over. That will set it permanently. I didn't know that. I'm going to try that right now. Let's see if we've got this. We've got this particular black square, and I'm going to take my chalk and let's mark that line on there. And then let's see what happens. We're going to ruin this piece. So if we iron on that, it only makes sense that that would happen. Okay, so it's pressed. Okay, this one's coming off, but we don't know if it's going to come off all the way. So I guess it depends on the chalk. Oops. Maybe it depends on the chalk pencil that you're using. I would be really careful. There is this chalk pencil that I have that very well could be. It could actually, when I put that on, that could set it. So just a different brand, a different type. So thank you for that comment. Be very careful when using chalk that you get that out of there before you press. Good point. Thank you. Oh, Martha, you said colored chalk. I think the white chalk might be something we need to consider too after I tried that. Let me just I'll press that a little bit. Okay. Yeah, that one's coming off too. So you're probably right then. I don't have any colored chalk to try it out, but that's very reasonable. I can see how that would happen. Okay. So anyway, thank you, everybody. I hope that that helps you when it comes to all your marking pencils. Like I said, I'll do a little more concise video where you can take a look at it straight down, and we'll do a tips video on that. But I just came up with this as I was using all my pens and marking so many different quilt blocks recently in so many different ways. And, you know, hands down, my sew line is just my favorite. It just works the best. And then second on my list is my plain old mechanical pencil. I just love both of those. I feel like they're the safest ones that I have, and they work well for what I do. Now, for what you do, if you're doing something else when it comes to quilting or whatever, then test it out and give it a try. So thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm excited that we were able to share this time together. This is always my favorite time of the week. I love the chats that we have, and I appreciate all of you joining in with me. We have a tips video that's up from yesterday on just 10 items that I feel like are really important for new quilters. If you're interested in that, take a look at that video, and we will see you again at our next meeting. The newsletter has all of the dates in there. So when we have anything that's going on, you can check that, and then you can mark your calendar so that you don't have to rely on an email coming to you or whatever. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you again. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. I am always trying to be joyful. These days are so easy to be joyful, but I will always be merry. Thanks again, everyone.